The topic of this presentation is Emotions in Dickens, a bridge between English and Polish cultures. It contains a bridge as a metaphor which may connect two different cultures and stresses brilliantly cross-cultural perspective of emotions which are inscribed in every culture and its norms. Speaking specifically, emotions play a significant role in the research on literature and translation. The present contribution attempts to explore the linguistic markers of emotions and feelings presented in the third Christmas book, The Cricket on the Hearth, and its Polish translations. All of them were made in the 20th century. By my account, The Cricket was translated and retranslated into Polish as many as 20 times. Apparently, a few interpreters must have felt the urge to translate it. I selected 6 Polish renditions by Maria Kreczowska, under her husband's name Maria Feldmanowa-Kreczowska, Krystyna Tarnowska, and Jerzy Łoziński, and traced emotive lexims and sentences used by Dickens' characters in comparison to their translations into Polish in terms of expressing and conceptualizing emotions. Dickens has a huge influence on Polish culture. His most top-rated book in Poland is A Christmas Carol in Prose, being a ghost story of Christmas, which was translated anonymously and published first time unabridged in 1879. That is relatively belated in comparison to its size and popularity in other countries. It's still unbeatable, published in no less than 80 different Polish editions. In addition, numerous and frequent revivals of Christmas books and soaring of new rendition spawned the notion of retranslation. Transformations Poland came through are visible in the language, grammar, and lexis. The development of civilization, ways of living, social norms, attitudes, customs, and above all, political system reflects true yearning for knowing and studying British culture in newer translations. Due to immanent literary qualities of Dickens' works, they gain an international and timeless dimension. In Poland, in interwar period, The Cricket was published 4 times, and after the Second World War, it appeared in translations by Maria Feldmanowa-Kreczowska, Aldona Szpakowska, Jerzy Łoziński, and Krystyna Tarnowska, which is the most popular on the publishing market, and only The Cricket was so attractive that it was put on the stage. Apparently, all Christmas books serve a wide range of emotions, especially those positive. Statistically speaking, Dickens' characters experience fewer negative emotions and more positive ones. Throughout the text, we come across many emotive lexims. I shall present 9 chosen positive names of emotions, namely love, happy, happiness, cheerful, cheerfulness, joy, joyful, enjoy, enjoyment, as well 9 negative ones, such as hate, hatred, anger, angry, sad, sadness, afraid, fear, and sorry. It turns out that love appears 31 times, whereas hate occurs only 4 times. Hatred doesn't appear, as well as angry 4 times. Anger doesn't appear at all. An adjective happy is used 15 times, cheerful 10 times, and unhappiness 3 times, cheerfulness 4 times, joy 8 times, joyful once, enjoyment once, enjoy 2 times. When it comes to negative emotions, sadness does not appear at all. Sad is used 4 times, fear 5 times, afraid 7 times, sorry appears 13 times. It equals 75 positive phrases and 37 negative ones, which notably proves the fact that Dickens uses many more positive lexims and collocations than negative ones. His Christmas books abound in many words expressing emotions and feelings. Many phrases Dickens uses convey the significance of goodness, good and positive words, good humor, laughter, warmth, cheerfulness, optimism, which are highlighted by the fire blazing in the fireplace and a chirping cricket. This explosion of positive feelings is interspersed with negative ones, which intensifies the true emotions of the characters, their hopes, passions, and contrasts and imperfections. Dickens was a keen observer, thus he studied people, their reactions and feelings, and put all of them into words. Let us now focus primarily on emotive lexical devices and sentences used by Dickens' characters in A Cricket in comparison to their 6 renditions into Polish. My discussion will focus essentially on the following translations: from 1923, 1945 to from 1954, 1988, and 2015. I have chosen these 6 renditions because of similarities and differences in use of expressions and conceptualization of language and emotions and feelings. As will be shown, it's really worthwhile trying to compare cultures through the language, in particular vocabulary, and by the meanings of words. For the sake of my analysis, so far I have investigated a half of chapter first. What I find striking is a scarce use of the word emotion or feeling by Dickens, only 3 times each in the whole Christmas book. However, Dickens was fascinated with his characters and their feelings and emotions. How should we know about it? The basic emotions of the characters were convincingly revealed and evoked in the course of action. Charles Dickens exposes characters' feelings and mental states by means of literary and linguistic devices, as well as descriptions of paralinguistic communication. Moreover, Dickens does not keep off naming emotions directly. Presenting a list of names of emotions and mental states and their renditions at the beginning of the analysis of expressions will help open to the insight of diversity of emotions with which every reader has to deal with. Searching for emotive lexemes and names, I strongly focused on nouns. However, while working on a corpus, I came across adjectival and verbal forms as well. It appeared the most often that these 2 parts of speech presented emotional states, whereas nouns did not cover them all. Hence, I decided to include these linguistic units in my research work. The list of emotions was grouped according to a part of speech. By means of linguistic devices, Dickens individualized emotions of every character. Due to that, every single emotive statement encoding the name of emotion may be strongly associated with the context of mental states. It helps create a full emotional image of a character and informs a reader of the temperament of this character regarding idiolect and paralinguistic behaviors. Nouns are as follows: consideration, into doubt in 1923-46, into sake in 1954 versions and 88 and 2015. Good humor, which was good humor in 1923-46 and 54 target versions. Humor in 1988, so omission of good, and good mood in 2015. Moroseness, all reserve, was bleakness and grum in 1923 and 1945 target versions, disgruntlement and reserve in 1954, sulkiness in 1954, so reserve was omitted, bleakness and restraint in 1988, and bleakness and reserve in 2015. We may distinguish such adjectives as quarrelsome into a noun quarrelsomeness in 1923 and 46, quarrelsome mood, so 1954 versions, quarrelsome as adjective in 1988, and quarreler in 2015. Not positive was translated into I do not like to dispute in 1923 and 46. Then it became stubborn, so an adjective in 1954 and 1988 target versions, and sticker in 2015 target version. Jolly became cheerful in 1923, 46, 54, and 88 versions, and happy in 2015. Frightful was terror in 1923, 46, and 54. Frighteningly in 1988, and burly in 2015. Terrified was deadly anxiety in 1923, 46, and 54 versions. Frightened, so an adjective in 1988 and 2015 versions. Disconcerting was put into a verb, make somebody nervous, in 1923, 46, and 54 versions, into annoying in 1988, and disturbing in 2015. Convivial sentiments was a cheerful temper in 1923, 46, and 54 versions, nice affects in 1988, and social inclination in 2015. Cozy and hilarious became nice and full of humor in 1923, 46 and 54, nice and hilarious in another 1954 target version, welcoming and happy in 1988, and cute and happy in 2015. Snug, small, home. Small was translated into nice in the oldest versions. Cress was happy in all versions. Sad and murky in 1923, 46, and 54 was gloomy and bleak. Then murky becomes a noun, gloom, darkness in 1954. Sad and dark, obscure, gloomy in 1988, and it was omitted in 2015 target version. Angry crimson was angry crimson in 1923, 46, and 54. Then it became grim crimson in 1954, and purple and sinister taint in 1988. In 2015, it was omitted. The last category is verbs. We have hope, which was omitted, or it changed its meaning. Lost her temper into lost humor in 1923, 46, 54. Lost patience in 1988, lost good humor in 2015. Laughing was laughing in 1923, 46, 54, 88, and 2015. Love into like in all versions. In this brief comparative study of feelings, compared with Dickens, translators could have some problems in rendering adjectives, such as not positive, frightful, terrified, or a phrase lose somebody's temper. Hence, we can observe the tendency to depict emotions in English by means of adjectives. However, in translations, their forms are changed into nouns: conscientiousness, sticker, terror, anxiety, and rarely into verbs. I don't like to dispute, make somebody nervous, be no longer grump. This example is quite interesting because it implies an archaic word tetric, grump, which is no longer in use. Polish language is rich in verbal names of emotions. For example, not positive into I don't like to dispute in the oldest translations. This brief research shows that there may exist some discrepancies in determining emotional states between Polish and English. Having presented not full list of nouns, verbs, and adjectives which are used to name emotions in Dickens' cricket, show differences in terms of rendering parts of speech. When it comes to intensity of lexemes, Polish oldest translations depict feelings strongly and intensely in comparison to newer ones from 1954, 88, and 2015. Additionally, Dickens intensifies feelings of his protagonist by means of paralinguistic features. Emotions are expressed at every level of language, from grammar to intonation, in facial expressions such as frowns and gestures such as kisses. The context offers also insight into character states by means of paralinguistic features such as tone and pitch of voice, kinesthetic gestures, manners, to emphasize emotions and to depict emotive language functions. It seems inevitable to transfer emotions without any nonverbal signs. Indicative of it are the following examples. Facial expression, quote, looked sullen and pig-headed, end of quote. Facial expression involves movements of faces which show experienced feelings. Dickens uses a verb look to describe his protagonist's expression, sullen and pig-headed. It does not have to be very emotional. However, these two adjectives imply negative emotions. In Polish renditions, the discrepancies are found. In 4 target versions, translators choose to find equivalents of the first adjective sullen, whereas second adjective, pig-headed, becomes jauntily in Polish. When it comes to more recent translations, 1988 and 2015, Tarnowska completely changes the verb from look into have a face, and pig-headed becomes fierce, which is a very strong adjective. Woźinski in 2015 target version renders it into seem pig-headed as stubborn as a mule, and omits an adjective sullen. It could be stated that some modifications and interpretations in Polish target versions result from translators' attitude towards the text. While Tarnowska wants to strengthen the line, Kraczowska and Woźinski tries to soften it in order to adjust it to Polish readers and standards. When it comes to psychological changes, the example is shook him each time like a spectral voice. In Polish version, spectral voice is rendered as the voice of a ghost, a spectre. However, a shake exemplifies an emotion of fear, implies that something bad can happen to the speaker. In a lexicon exist many phrases such as shake in one's shoes or boots, tremble with fear, shake with fright. Thus, we may assume that when people shake, they feel fear. Translators replaced it with familiar equivalents. Shrink, shake somebody up, shock somebody, shake, tremble, shiver, and shake. Only in few examples, shake remains unchanged. Special attention must be paid to emotions hidden in tone and pitch of voice. Quote, hiss, splutter morosely the fire, end of quote. Mądrzyński stresses that hiss is a slow, quiet, explicit way of expression, of heavy, deep, dark colors, which serve states of sadness, depression, anger, contempt, resentment. All 6 target versions adapt sibilant sound of Polish. This onomatopoeic word accompanies splutter morosely, which appears as froth at the mouth, befoaming at the mouth, and fling saliva at fire in 2 oldest versions. Then in 1954 and 88 translations, it becomes mumble or mutter grumpily, and in the recent target version from 2015, spit viciously. What is interesting in Polish translations is that the oldest versions have a greater emotional intensity than the newest ones. At this point, it could be stated that nonverbal communication is tied to language and people use nonverbal signs accompanying speech. This explains why it may be difficult to decide for the target culture what protagonists feel and their emotions are. Depending on the context, people poke, wink, prune, pout, etc. Hence, nonverbal communication gives thoughts and feelings away before we are even aware of what we are thinking or how we feel. Last but not least, can we say that emotions are universal? As Wierzbicka argues, emotion is a culture-specific, problematic, and fairly complex word. She suggests that emotion is culture-bound, so every language has its own different means of conceptualizing and categorizing emotions. To prove it, as a native speaker of Polish language, Wierzbicka emphasizes that she would never interpret Ekman's smiling faces in terms of enjoyment because there is no such category in the Polish lexicon. Hence, it's necessary to find the most appropriate strategy to render such elements, and it becomes translator's dilemma how to convey to the target culture readers. Thank you.